Oh, I wish I was on the podcast. That's so funny. Welcome back to Sleepwell Horrors. Welcome back to Sleepwell Horrors. Hope you guys had a good weekend, whatever you're seeing this. Today we're doing another no sleep story from Reddit. We're trying to build a community here, so we like to do a lot of the Reddit ones. See how many authors that are new and who just posted stories. It's been fun. So this story today is called "I Taught Myself to Lucid Dream, but Now I Can't Make It Stop" by breadbreadbre or breadbreadbre is the author. Excited about it. Before we start, though, I want to do something a little bit different. Okay, I want to talk about some things that might have been creepy this week. Have you had anything creepy happen to you this week?
Reading your texts about the creepy things.
Okay, well, have you had anything else other than my text?
Not this week. Nothing
I'll go
noticeable.
first. So I'll go with one because we have a lot of videos to record today. So I'm gonna do one, and then you guys can watch the other videos for the other ones. Let's see. Oh, perfect one. The other night, I was editing a video. It was late, so there was definitely no one up, and I heard someone whistling outside my window, and I was like, "Huh." And then I remember the story I read where if you look at the whistler when you're out the window, you bad things happen. So I just didn't look out the window. I just kind of let it be. So that's one thing that happened to me. Also, apparently, me and Andrea are on the same sleep schedule. We both didn't sleep at all last night, and both woke up at 3 a.m. That's pretty weird. All right. Well, I guess Andrea has no stories, so I guess we'll have to go ahead and start then.
I think. Well, now that you mentioned the no sleeping, when I wake up at 3 in the morning, that scares me because I watched the
That's
Emily
the
Rose
witching hour.
exorcism. I know.
If you wake up at 3:33, I think. Let me just fact check that. 3:33, don't get up. Okay.
Sorry.
So go ahead, start us off.
Okay.
If you guys forgot the title, it's called "I Taught Myself to Lucid Dream, but Now I Can't Make It Stop." All right.
I didn't always have the ability to lucid dream. When I was younger, I used to do all these rituals while awake and try to encourage my awareness of reality. I'd hold my hands out in front of me and count how many fingers were on each one. I'd look at the time and ask myself if it made sense. I'd observe my surroundings and check the books I stacked in a specific pattern were all in order. I even took to drinking strange teas brewed from exotic leaves I'd purchased online, even if the taste made it difficult to finish. Nevertheless, it was only when I got tired of trying and abandoned this phase that I began to experience consciousness in my dreams.
I just read who the characters are, and it's
I
actually pretty
just saw
funny.
my name on there.
Yeah, at the beginning, I was elated to have unlocked the superpower. I'd compulsively record the events in my previous neglected dream journal, detailing every path I chose, person I chose to see, and place I visited. I conclude each an entry with a paragraph of lines with words, "Tonight I'll lucid dream again," written over and over to manifest more. When I obsessed over it, however, it wouldn't happen. It was only when I forgot about it and I'd stop what I was doing. Sensing some strangeness around me, count my fingers and find 6 on my hand.
Mm-mm. One of my favorite dreams over a year ago now, I was at work in the cafe as always when I got a strange compulsion to look at my dreams. It was a terrible shift, everything had been going wrong, and each customer seemed to be looking at me. As I suspected, my hands were completely deformed before my eyes. I let out an exhale in a mixture of amusement at the sight of relief that I was in a dream again. As soon as I'd figured it out, I halted my breath and composed myself. I'd long since learned to conceal my awareness from the characters in my head. I had no reason to believe anything bad would happen if I said aloud that I was asleep, but there was an instinctive fear within me of letting anything find out.
No. No. Toasty. No.
After my strange After my strange display of checking my hands and sighing, my colleague Eloise gave me a tense look. I didn't like the way she looked at me. Her eyes met mine and her expression changed, her head tilting forward slowly so that she was looking at me from the corner of her eye.
Andrea?
She drawled out.
Nothing. Nothing.
I exclaimed, waving my hands frantically before she'd even said anything.
None of this matters anyway. Oh, she didn't seem to like that, opening her mouth to say something, but I shut my eyes and began to spin around. Just as I'd willed it to, the room was different when I opened my eyes. No more strange customers, no colleagues, just me and the ex-boyfriend I'd only madly obsessed for. For my own dignity, I'll call him something similar, like Miles. My fantasism over a relationship that ended isn't really something I like to share, but in my defense, our one-sided relationship was something I only ever planned to keep in my dreams. Interesting.
It's a little obsessive. Miles was a frequent visitor.
I thought you were going to say Miles was a freak.
Sounds like she might be. Miles was a frequent visitor of my lucid dreams, at my request, of course. In this dream, I'd served him a coffee and whispered that I was a fan of his work and music. I did my best to be respectful and secretive as to not blow his cover in public, even though we were completely alone. In my dreams, he'd always become this famous singer he'd dream of being himself. It seemed to make sense in the storyline I'd like to create. He was as gracious as ever, expressing his thanks and then offering me to join him for a drink, as though he'd forgotten me and we were strangers again.
I can't.
I said, smiling at...
Oh. Go ahead.
I said, smiling at him with such charm, with as much...
Oh, wow.
I said, smiling at him with as much charm as I could muster.
I'm still working.
He looked around the cafe and motioned to the lack of customers, allowing me to admire the flawless beauty of his side profile.
I don't see any customers.
He said, a mischievous...
You can never get that word.
I know.
You can never get mischievous. That is one of your... I'm writing that down as a word that you can't get. I have my notes right here. I'm going to write that down. Words that Andrea can't say. Mischievous
tone to his voice as he rested his chin in his hands. A little caught off guard, I looked around also.
Right, yeah. I didn't think you'd be aware of that. You don't think I'd know we're alone?
He said, tilting his head. I sat down opposite him, swooning.
No, I mean... I don't know.
I said, fumbling over my words. What I meant to say was yes, that I didn't think he'd be as aware of our surroundings within the dream as I was. After all, he was merely a character created by me. How was I to know he transcended the logic of dreams? The situation and the rules I produced seemed to occasionally flicker out of my control. I held out a hand.
My name's Andrea. I can't say it without laughing. That's a beautiful name.
I promise I didn't choose this because of my name, okay?
Okay. We don't read the stories. We don't, just so the audience knows, we don't read the stories beforehand. We just read them. Like, we live read them ourselves. Like, it's the first time of us reading it the first time. The only thing that I'll do is I'll go really fast and I'll see if there's like quotation marks for dialogue. That's it.
We proceeded to have a lovely conversation over coffee that we never seemed to drink before he invited me to ditch my work and head out with him. My memory of the dream became foggy after we left, but I recall seeing a few old friends out in town and I smugly ignored in favor of gazing only at Miles. At some point, his hair and clothes seemed to change a little, much to my frustration, but I knew the dream was simply becoming unstable and that I was waking up soon.
Stop.
Whenever I noticed, I'd reach up to adjust his hair, muttering to myself that he wasn't holding together. He'd flush at my touch and smile like I was doing something romantic for him.
Knowing I had
Knowing
my
it,
very we're not in sync today. Knowing I had a very little time left, I began to rush us home to get out of the public eye. Alone, I remember that he kissed me. That amongst the fog of a collapsing dream, it was the last and yet most vivid, intense moment. A kiss within a dream was my favorite feeling. Every sense, every cell in my body seemed hyper-tuned to the moment. There was a warmness in my chest and a softness to his lips. That reality I just couldn't replicate. Not that I ever would. I remember awakening from these types of dreams with an euphoria that had me snuggling back into my davoo, trying to pull the dream, snuggling back into my duvet, trying to pull the dream back to me. I'd roll out of bed and think about different frames of the movie I'd made, reliving the feeling of him looking at me. With my morning coffee, I'd fill my dream journal with the story.
I try to recall the start of the dream before I'd become lucid. I'd been at work doing my job as always, so what had tipped me off that it was really a dream? The shift was going badly, sure, but what happened in reality every now and then, so why had everything felt so wrong? The only thing that stood out to me was Eloise's face. She'd given me an odd look, and there was something about her face that was unnatural and wrong, but it was only once the cover was blown, once I'd counted my fingers, that I realized she wasn't right. It was an entire month after that before I became lucid again. During the first time, I was walking around a shopping center with a few friends, old friends again. I seem to revisit the past often when in my subconscious. We stopped by a fountain when things escalated in our conversation. I don't remember what we were talking about, the group hollering angrily about something that felt important in the moment, but it was then, when Lydia addressed me, that I realized.
Do you have any remorse, Andrea?
Was what she asked me, outraged. Time seemed to slow to a stop, gears in my head shuddering to a rusty halt.
Oh?
I said and looked at my hands, the only living things in my fabricated surroundings. I had far too many fingers. I laughed freely. I was once again standing in the midst of our own creation, like a mad inventor. I turned around to survey the place, but when I looked back at Lydia, my joy was sapped away. Her face had changed. It was still her, but her hair had thinned out and turned dull. Her jaw was unnaturally wide, like the blood and fat from her face had drained, and her skin had been vacuum packed to her bones.
Don't do that!
She said hauntingly. She began to slowly shake her head. I felt myself frowning, confused by this tonal shift. I wasn't sure what it was, but everything was frightening all of a sudden. Dread weighing down on me like a weighted blanket. Dread weighing down on me like a weighted blanket. I turned to my other old friends who stood dazed in my peripheral. When I tried to look at them directly, however, they were gone. I told myself I had no reason to be afraid. This was my dream after all. I closed my eyes and snapped my fingers in her unsettling face to make her disappear, but she wouldn't. When I opened my eyes, she still stood before me, eyes sinking into her increasingly gray face.
You're not Lydia.
I said slowly. When I'd said it, I meant that she simply wasn't real, but she started smiling. It was as though she agreed with me.
Oh. She tilted her head to the side, the same way Lucy had in my cafe daydream. That's right, she wasn't Lydia at all, but perhaps she was something else entirely. I closed my eyes, panicking a little. I suddenly kept them shut as I gathered myself. This was my dream, my creation. I was in control here, so how could it possibly turn into a nightmare? I willed her to be gone for someone not nice to be with me instead, but when I opened my eyes again, she was still there. I snapped my eyes back shut instantly, so only an imprint of her figure flashed behind my eyelids. For a single frame, I'd seen a ghastly grin below wide black eyes, one that stretched from ear to ear and arced unnaturally low. No, I told myself. I couldn't subject myself to this while fully lucid. It wasn't fair of my own brain to do this to me. Knowing I was aware of myself, so I squeezed, crunched my face up, and shook my head over and over and over. When I awoke, I was in my bed. This was my method. When I realized I was dreaming within a nightmare before, this is the way I was waking myself up. But I never had a dream become something terrifying while I was aware of it like that.
Climbing out of bed in the pitch black, I padded across the curtains and opened them to try and figure out the time, where I was greeted by the blinding street lights and black sky. I looked down at the fabric of the curtain in my hand. I couldn't really feel it, and I wasn't sure why I would look outside to check the time instead of just checking my phone. I hadn't had to dodge the tangle of wires that was usually blocked by my side of the bed either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Of course I was still asleep, I smiled, glad I hadn't lost my chance to have a nice dream and gazed down the street. It was unnaturally foggy outside, and I didn't like that, but it didn't seem to change when I tried to make it sunny. When I took in the stretching emptiness of the street, a face with a chilling smile flashed into my memory, and I stiffly turned to look at my bedroom door. It was cloaked in darkness, so much that I could barely make out the frame of it. That familiar horror set into my core, paralyzing me to the spot. I didn't want to look at the door. Was it open? I wanted something more than to turn away. I wanted nothing more than to turn away from it, but something within me screamed warnings to not look out the window either. That same fear, the one I'd felt when I looked at Lydia at that thing, had me holding my breath. I closed my eyes, the only thing I could do to escape. I was here. I felt its presence. I knew my own brain well enough that I could feel that something was amiss. It was what had allowed me to begin lucid dreaming in the first place after all. With my sight taken away, I could only wait in silence for something to make a sound or touch me. I tensed, anticipating something brushing against me. I expected it so fiercely that I was beginning to force it.
Yes, someone's here. Someone's holding my hand. I was telling myself. Miles? That's you, isn't it?
Miles' hand squeezed mine in response, and I opened my eyes. I was still in the dark room, but now he was here with me. He was wearing the cap he often wore back when we first got together, and he was smiling down at me.
What is it?
He asked, rubbing his thumb soothingly over the back of my hand.
Nothing. I thought something was here, something horrible.
He
Just
shrugged.
me. Just
he said,
me. Damn it. Just me.
He said, leaning down to kiss my forehead. This time he didn't feel like some celebrity that I dreamed up or some other perfect version of Miles that would be playing. It really felt like him, and as though we knew exactly what was going on in my head. I pulled him towards me and breathed in his chalky violet smell, as comforting and fresh as ever.
I miss you.
He stroked my hair and sighed.
I miss you too.
He breathed onto the top of my head.
Where have you been, chick?
Somebody chick.
I don't like that one.
I don't like that either.
I don't like that.
Something was ringing in the distance, irritating me.
Right here. I'll always be right here, waiting for you. I think they just missed the opportunity to be like, which word is it? I missed you too, babe. I feel like they just missed that opportunity.
Like
or
chick?
Just me, babe. I don't know. I feel like that would have been perfect, but still pretty good.
Who calls somebody chick? I don't like that word.
I don't like it either. But she's dreaming, okay?
True. When I looked up, he wasn't wearing his hat anymore. His hair was wet.
Aren't you going to answer that?
I gave him a puzzled look and listened out for the phone, afraid of who it could be. The ringing. It was my morning alarm. I was relieved it wasn't the dreaded phone call again, but my morning alarm wasn't what I wanted to hear either.
I love you,
I said and kissed him softly.
I'd never been so furious at my alarm as I was that morning. turning it off and shutting my eyes immediately to try and will Miles back to me. But a demented smile was all I could see, forced me to let go and allow myself to wake up. When I got out of my bed, the first thing I did was count my fingers, 10, as there should be. Although in that dream I wanted nothing more than to be out of it, being in reality meant I could no longer have Miles, and the weight of that had my eyes watery as I made my coffee and I got ready for work. It was on my drive to work that my phone really did ring. I knew better than to answer an unknown number, so I let it ring. My choice was further justified when the number tried to me 3 more times. Jesus Christ. I had 10 fingers when how do you say his name? Eloise?
Eloise?
Oh my goodness. I had 10 fingers when Eloise said good morning to me, and 10 fingers when I stopped for lunch. What's what's on your mind today?
She asked me, sliding up beside me. I analyzed her face for a second, looking for anything to cross-examine when I encountered her at night.
Nothing really. Just haven't been sleeping well. I thought so. You look exhausted. Thanks.
She muttered. I muttered with a half-hearted laugh.
Seriously though, you have some caffeine or something? I'm not saying this to be mean, but I've been cleaning up after you all morning.
I shot her a look of bewilderment. I had no recollection of being such a mess behind the counter all morning. I had the urge to double-check I really was awake.
I'm sorry. I didn't even realize. That's okay. I'm sorry to criticize you. It's just that...
Eloise paused to check no one would overhear her.
Mallory's been watching you.
With an exaggerated roll of my eyes, I started picking at my nails.
I'm sure she has. She's been looking for an excuse to fire me. Don't be silly.
Eloise exclaimed, giving me a light tap on the arm.
You know she can't fire you anyway. You're invincible here. She might just have a chat with you if you get another order wrong.
I held up a hand.
Whoa. What do you even mean, invincible?
Eloise leaned back from me, her shoulders dropping. She opened her mouth and faltered. I began to piece together that she'd said something precarious before she even elaborated.
That's me.
That's you.
I just mean with everything. She wouldn't do that to you. Something's going on here that she's not telling us. Something, I don't know what she's talking about. She said after everything she's been through, I'm confused. I don't remember that coming up.
It has definitely not. Eloise is just her coworker, right?
Yeah.
As far as we know.
Yeah, this is like the first conversation we've had with her.
Mallory, my mother's childhood friend, was talking enthusiastically to a customer on the other side of the cafe, unaware of her coworker's discussion of her. I knew she had given me this job to help me out, but I didn't realize I was such a hinder to her business and that I'd left her trapped here with me. I'd already cost her customers by showing my face here. Now I was making a mess of the job too. Wait, what?
What is she talking about? Showing your face? She's like, showing my face here.
We're missing a big chunk of this story.
Oh, yeah, we're missing something because, like, that's pretty crazy. Showing my face here. When I left work, I snuck out to avoid a talk with Mallory. I hope she didn't figure out what I could hear. I could hear her calling out to me as I walked out with my headphones on. I couldn't avoid her stern lecture forever, but at least for today. I knocked out by midnight, but nothing I dreamt about that following night stuck in my memory long enough to be of note. All I know that I woke up feeling even more tired than ever, afraid and paranoid that something had smiled at me again that night.
Okay. Pause. Mallory is her best friend's mom who owns a cafe and hired her.
Okay.
right?
I don't remember.
Okay. I think that's what it is.
Okay. I just know Mallory's the boss.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, yeah. Mallory, my mother's childhood friend.
her
That's her
mother's childhood friend.
cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And something terrible happened.
Right.
All right. It'll come together, I think. I hope. Um, for a month or so, I was unable to keep up with the films my brain showed me. I'd simply be an audience member to the display my subconsciousness was able to come up with. If I'd ever managed to get a hold of myself to realize I was dreaming, the cycle would begin. The cycle, as I referred to it, was the torturous phenomenon in which my dreams and my reality began to blur together. One of the most notable occurrences of the cycle was after a particularly troubling nightmare. I was with Miles this time my brain's own doing and not my lucid actions. We were on a boat together, the pair of us soaking wet after swimming in our clothes. We were laughing away, enjoying each other's company and the view of the sun dipping into the sea, when he started shivering.
But unaware that I was asleep, I began to swarm around him, wrapping him in my jacket and rubbing his arms to try and warm him up. He shut his eyes and seemed to go a little limp, slumped over in the boat, but his teeth continued to chatter. Miles?
I shook him, but he gave no response.
I couldn't begin to explain why, but in my dream state, I figured he was past the point of no return. He was too cold to ever recover. His lips were blue, his lashes seemed to be glued shut with ice, his cheeks were gaunt, and his clothes hung off him like a scarecrow. Overhead, a gull began to dive at him, like he was floating carcass, ripe for the picking. Although I did my best to swat it away, I wouldn't relent, even trying to take some chunks out of them. Infuriated, I decided to shove the problem, gently pushing Miles backwards. He slid off the boat like a rag, as though his clothes were empty, teeth still chattering as he was submerged. When I started crying, the gull landed on the boat. Her mouth had begun sitting previously, and he started calling at me with a disgusting scream. So I started swinging the oar of the boat at it. It dodged me again and again, deafening me with its wounded yowling.
For a second, I thought it was Miles that started cawing at her.
That would have been crazy. At last, I managed to hit it, sending it with a splatter to the bottom of the boat. There it lay in pieces, black eyes flickering around and beak quivering as it let out little bird-like chortles. Its eyes made me sick with terror. It was like there was something else in there, some parasite living alongside the bird that had now taken over its autonomy.
That all too familiar fear of something else being present turned me lucid. I was asleep and I hadn't pushed Miles. This was a nightmare. The bird got louder and louder with its pained screeches. Whatever it was, I stamped it out with an unbridled rage and awoke with a gasp that hurt my chest. I was drenched in sweat so much that I considered the possibility that I'd pissed myself. The comfort grew and my chest kept hurting as I lay in bed, surrounded by the dark, so I tried to roll over in bed. But when I turned over, I stopped dead. There in the dark was a girl. She mirrored my position exactly, one hand under her head and the other under her chin, but she had large black eyes and a tiny mouth and nose, like her head wasn't fully developed.
Oh.
Gradually, she began to open her mouth, where a black void laid within. It opened wider, beginning to distort her eyes, and my heart pounded so loud I was sure I couldn't possibly be asleep. Unable to move, I did the only thing I could think of to do and shut my eyes, squeezing tight. I held strong for 10 seconds, and then I let go and looked. She was still there, so I tried again. I knew this would work. It always did. So I just kept squeezing, checking, then squeezing. After my fourth attempt, I opened my eyes to a bright room. With an uncontrolled sob, I snagged my phone from where it was plugged on the floor and checked the time. It was 8:43 a.m., meaning I was going to be late for work.
God damn it. She gonna get lectured now.
Yeah, she
I
can't
ran to
avoid
work,
Mallory.
sweating. Yeah. I ran to work, sweating and trying to tie my hair up, but when I arrived, there was only Eloise and Mallory in the cafe, sitting around a table. There was a third seat for me, so I had a feeling I was in deep shit. When I sat down, they were mid conversation. Mallory spared me a quick glance, and then I let out a groan, motioning her at me. You see what I mean? Pinching the bridge of her nose. Eloise shook her head, disapproving. I know. I've been telling her, she said.
I looked between them confused before I realized I was sat there in my pajamas, no shoes on, and likely yesterday's mascara smeared across my face.
Please, just give me another shot. I can be a valuable employee to you, I swear. You can fire me if I'm useless, okay? You don't need to keep me here just because you feel bad, but let me prove myself, please. Did you run here?
Was all Mallory said.
Yes, I
Stammered, wiping sweat from my forehead with shame, but then I stopped. The cafe was 13 miles from my house and I had run here. No way in hell I could have done that. I checked my phone again. 8:43 a.m. I counted my fingers. When I woke up, the little girl was there again, so I forced myself awake. 8:43 a.m. I still wouldn't do it again. I wouldn't rush to work. This was a dream after all. I sat up in bed and looked around her. Nothing felt off. 10 fingers, but I still couldn't believe it. I wrapped my arms around myself and listened to the silence in my apartment. Any minute now, my brain would summon something. I waited, but nothing came. It was only when I stopped waiting that there was a noise in the other room, and the fear hit me. I had been trying to summon something, but nothing would come, so whatever was here now was no creation of mine.
Wake up, please. Wake up, wake up.
The noise in the other room had initially been a single tap, but it escalated into a scratching that seemed to scurry across the floor towards my bedroom door.
Miles?
When I called out to him, the instance that followed was the first time I ever heard that thing speak to me. The sound was gravely and echoed in my head like it was speaking right in my ear. There were layers of high whistling octaves and deep bass tones reciting the words.
He's
gone.
Some weeks after this particular cycle, I decided it was time to call him. He hadn't heard from me in over a year, but I'd reached my wit's end. I'd spent my waking hours meditating, writing, and medicating. But I knew there would be no end to my nightmares if I didn't get some closure. I listened to it ring with shaky hands. I had no idea how he would react, but I only prayed it wasn't anger. I was the one who left him, so what right did I have to seek out closure?
Hello?
Came his voice, his soothing, safe voice from the other end.
Miles, hey. I'm so sorry to bother you. I know it's been a long time, and I know I shouldn't be doing this, but there's something I really want to talk to you about.
I stumbled over my words as I spoke, unsure of what to even say now that I had the chance to say it. The line went silent for a while.
Is everything okay?
My vision blurred with tears at the goodness of his heart to even ask.
Well, yes, sort of. I just really need to speak to you in person.
He went quiet again. Just as I began to get antsy, he replied.
Okay. Do you want me to come over? Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'll listen to what you have to say, but this won't happen again.
I started nodding frantically as if he could see me.
That's fine. Don't expect anything, Dre. Drea. That's crazy.
That
Is
is
this you?
crazy.
I swear to God, is this you? That's
Did I
crazy.
did I write this? No, I'm kidding. I didn't write
Did
this.
I write this? Did you is this author actually you? No, I'm just joking. Because you're the one that suggested. Don't expect anything, Drea. Don't expect anything, Drea. You have me, remember? No, I know.
I began, but the phone started beeping in my ear. I pulled it away to see that there was someone else calling me.
Hang on.
I picked up and readied myself to start yelling at the unknown number to leave me alone, to go to hell whatever curses and insults I could come up with. But I stopped short.
Andrea?
It was Miles' mother. I'd recognize her voice anywhere after all the hours I'd listened to it scream at me.
Hello?
I got up from my bed and looked out the window as though expecting Miles to show up already and save me from whatever his mother was about to tell me.
Have you heard from Miles? Yes. I just spoke to him. Was he driving to you?
I swallowed dryly, shielding my eyes with my hand. I couldn't answer her. I stared into the palm of my hand.
Andrea, answer me.
Her voice getting louder.
Did you tell him to drive to your house? So what if I did? He's been killed, Andrea. My son is lying on the slate, freezing cold, full of water because you insisted on him coming to see you. These weather conditions, he drowned slowly, painfully, because of you.
I hung up the phone, 8 fingers on my hand. Ma was fine, I told myself. This isn't real. Nothing that feels this bad is ever real. When I woke up from that one, I was in a hospital bed, one hand held by my mother and the other by Miles. I broke my hand free of his and counted. No good. I squeezed my eyes shut again and again and again.
Wake up!
I whispered, staring at the white ceiling. Miles took my hand again.
Why?
He asked. His hand was freezing cold. His
Why,
eyes looked darker.
SpongeBob, why? Why didn't you just do your essay?
His eyes looked darker than they usually were, and I had to close my eyes and look away from him. I trusted him, but up here in my head more than anything. No matter how many times I stabbed him, pushed him, strangled him, he'd never be the one to hurt me. Damn. So, what had changed now? Why now had the parasite began to change the way he looked at me? The next time I looked at him, water seemed to be streaming from his mouth. He started coughing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He tried to speak to me, but no sound would come aside from the choking, gargling. His eyes were bloodshot, neck veins bulging.
I never would have left you there if I'd known there was a chance. Please believe me, I didn't want you to die. He can't hear you, sweetheart.
My mother said...
That's her mother, my bad.
Oh.
I read that a little bit too evil. He can't hear you, sweetheart.
My mother said softly from beside me. Black hair fell to the floor from Miles' head in a clump as he convulsed. Blood dripping from his nose that had become disfigured by his own nails clawing at his neck and face. What is happening right now?
Sue! I don't know. Whatever's happening right now is wild. She's having a nightmare.
Truly.
He has to!
I exclaimed, thrashing free of her grip.
It's not too late, Miles. I wish every day that I had been me left behind in that car.
There were so many times that I poured my heart out to him that I was sorry. That I wanted to die in his place, but he never seemed to get the chance to hear me.
That's what happened. Now we know. Miles is actually dead.
Miles is dead.
Because
because of her?
Yeah.
Or an accident?
I think he died in an accident. I think he drowned.
Okay.
Maybe Mallory's is his mom.
The green screen is so wild because it looks like you were pulling Toasty in his bed just like in the air.
He kept peering in the background, so I had to move his bed. He's like, "What the fuck, dude?" He's looking at me all crazy now. What? Relax. Right. So he's dead, actually, for reals. He died in
Said
the
for
car
real.
accident. She's having a nightmare. All right. At 8:43 a.m., after a long night of keeping awake, dosed up on caffeine and cocaine, I got in my car and drove. Every now and then, I'd catch glimpses of him in my mirrors. I remember the times we laughed, the times we sang on the top of our lungs. Each one reflected back at me. I remember the last time, our big fight. He'd been yelling. He knocked my coffee out of my hand, splashing it across my lap and across the seat. I'd screamed back at him, glazed over with rage, and masked by the dark. He'd missed the car coming around the bend and the narrow road. I was angry when I grabbed that wheel. I remember that very well. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I
Well,
pulled
that's
up
why
at the
she
bend.
keeps having nightmares.
Yeah, Jesus. Pulled up at the bend and stared down the ditch over the dashboard. In that moment, in the few minutes that I questioned myself, my phone rang. I never picked up these anonymous calls. Knew it would only be someone trying to hurt me, but for some reason, in my current state of mind, I answered. I didn't I didn't even get a chance to speak before the voice on the other end said the word I'd grown used to hearing. Murderer.
When I put my foot down and aimed for the lake, I only hoped I wouldn't dream when I was dead. The drive down the lake was longer than I remember the fall being. The car banging over every rock of the ground fell away. One rock in particular jolted me so hard I lunged forward and hit my head on the wheel. Something crawled down my forehead, so fast it wasn't long before it reached my eyes and I saw blood. By the time I hit the water, I'd almost changed my mind, but the cold rushing in sobered me up and set me in my decision. Just as I dreamed it, I unfastened my seatbelt and crawled over to the passenger seat exactly where I'd been that night, when I turned to see him bleeding out and completely motionless, alive. It was when the cold water rose to my neck that I looked in the rear view mirror and saw it. The thing that my brain hadn't invited in was watching me sink with its black eyes, but I didn't have the strength to even be afraid of it anymore. Water filled my lungs and rattled me from the inside out. The pain was welcoming, every nerve in my body reacting like electricity, but my physical reaction was to start madly clawing at the window, at the door, at myself, at anything. In the flurry of bubbles and the next sound of my own muffled voice screaming, I saw in my blurry line of sight the number of fingers on my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Dang. She
So
killed
what
him.
part was a dream?
Well, I think it was mixed with dreams and her past, right? Because there was an accident, right? We know there was an accident.
Right.
And Eloise was like, "You're invincible here because of the accident," like blah blah blah. I think that she got into a fight with her boyfriend, Miles, and she drove off the road and into obviously a body of water, and he drowned.
And now she
And I
has
think she's having
PTSD.
nightmares about it and PTSD about it. Yeah, 100%. That's
And
crazy.
the girl with the black eyes is her.
Yes, because
Yeah.
she thinks of herself as a demon. That's how I perceived it. She thinks
That
she's a
makes more
monster for
sense.
killing her boyfriend, and now she's having PTSD moments and nightmares about it. And then she obviously doesn't want to talk to her Miles' mom because she obviously hates her.
Of course.
And you know how like at the beginning she said she's super obsessed over Miles. So like in a fit of rage when you're obsessed with somebody and things are going maybe they're like it was a breakup argument or something, and she's like, well, we're both gonna die then. You know?
Yeah. A little psycho, but yeah, I guess.
He has a moment, you know. Crazy. That's a good story. I liked it. That was good. That was
That
good.
was,
We
that was
struggled a
good.
little bit though. We
That was
struggled
that
a
was
little bit.
hard. That was hard to
We
read.
struggled with some of those words.
Yeah.
I really think the author is from England. I think they're English. Now, breadbreadbre. Let me know if you're not though. Like if I'm just like if we're just like struggling because we can't read, but I think it's what it is. Because every time I read an author who is from just the UK in general, I struggle with reading it. Like we're about to read one after this, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
I think they're English too, so or Scottish or something.
Scottish.
So yeah, crazy. That was a good story though. I liked it. The dreams though real. That's crazy. Like that happens in dreams though. Like I have woken up from a dream once, and I was still in a dream. Didn't like that.
Yeah, that's terrifying because then you're like, I woke up, but then you're still there.
Tell your recurring dream.
My reoccurring dream, and it has happened in different locations, is that in my dream, there's a little kid, a creepy little kid. I just want to point that out,
Mm,
staring at me.
mm.
Either like getting out, like walking out of the closet, walking through a door, but I'm like sleeping and it's like staring at me. So I'll wake up. And when I wake up, the kid is still there, still staring at me.
Oh,
And then I can't move.
oh, paralyzed.
I'll
You're
eventually
sleep
wake
paralysis.
up and be like, okay, no kid. And then I won't get up because I'm scared.
Man, that's crazy.
I
That's crazy.
I know. I used to want to be able to astral project. I think I even had a couple of books like
How
astral
to?
projection for beginners.
For beginners.
And then I saw the movie Insidious and I said, fuck no.
Never mind.
I don't want to try.
I've had a recurring dream too. I used to get it a lot when I was younger. I haven't gotten it in a long time, but every time we'd move houses or like, because we moved around a lot when I was younger, and even before that too, I would have a dream where a hooded Grim Reaper looking figure, you couldn't no face, right, just black in the hood, and be floating, and it had like basically like skeleton hands, and it would like almost force choke me in my sleep, so I couldn't move in my bed, and it would just be force choking me while I was like
That's
laying down and I couldn't get up.
terrifying.
I had it like 4 or 5 times.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, pretty bad.
What if it is the Grim Reaper?
It's just like yeah, maybe it's like warning me.
Um,
Um,
Wait,
that was like
one last one story to tell you. It's not really
go
a
ahead.
story. It's not really a reoccurring dream itself because the dream happens in different scenarios. It's a reoccurring house in my dreams. I
Mm,
can't even tell you how many times I have had this house be in my dreams, different locations, different times, and it's like the most haunted, creepy ass fucking house. I know it by memory now.
don't like
How
that.
like each room because of how many times I've had it in my dreams.
I don't like that at all.
Me neither.
No, thank you.
You're
Just the
welcome
same
for that.
house. You got some trauma. You got to unpack with your therapist, I think.
I know. I probably do.
Anyway, great story. If they have any other stories, we plan on reading it. Now we're gonna record a lot, so we say this, but they'll eventually move back in the mix. There's just like a wait list. But great story, and that's gonna be our long one for this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to, I forgot to say at the beginning of the video, don't forget to join the Discord, right? There's a lot of fun things on there. We're building a community where people can suggest stories. They can submit their own stories. We have a meme channel, gaming channel. There's a bunch of stuff. So go ahead and enjoy that. And then don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Give us a little comment. Give us a little. We like that. We like hearing feedback. Tell us we suck. Whatever.
No.
Like us on YouTube, and hit that subscribe button. All right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna keep doing this. This is for the long haul. I'm not gonna talk about Spotify until I actually post things on it. So I'm not gonna tell you things are posted on it because they're not. All right. But other than that, hope you guys had fun, and hope you guys sleep well tonight. Don't have a nightmare you can't get out of, because that's scary.
But if you do, let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Let us know your nightmares in the comments. How about that? Put them in there. All right, we want to know. Maybe we'll read a couple next time. Other than that, we will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.